All right, Pear Orchard, if you would turn in your Bibles to John chapter 6. John chapter 6, our devotion today is going to be in verse 35 to verse 39. And really what we're going to do is really focus in on verse 37. But I want to read more of it to give you the context. So John 6, verse 35 to 39. In this context, Jesus has just fed the 5,000. And what he is essentially showing is that he is the one whom we should depend on. He is the one who will really feed his people. And you're going to see some of this language as he talks. So John 6, starting in verse 35, Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. So think about the manna that God gave to the Israelites in the Old Testament. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me and yet do not believe. Now here's the verse I want us to focus on, verse 37. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing of all that he has given me, but raise it up on the last day. Verse 37, I'll read it again. This is the verse I want us to really unpack. Jesus says, all that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. That is a phenomenal verse that I'm sure has given so many of you such great encouragement. And actually what I want to do is really unpack that verse. And actually what I'm using as a big help for this is this new book by Dane Ortlund. Maybe you know the name Ray Ortlund. This is his son. It's this phenomenal book called Gentle and Lowly, The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. This is a phenomenal book that I'll actually be looking at some of the excerpts in it. But what I want you to think about is this. I have a dog named Murphy. Murphy, every single time I am in the backyard, Murphy's first thing, his most passionate thing that he wants to do is fetch. We have these little bitty tires. We have tennis balls. We have soccer balls. His passion, his heart is to fetch. So as soon as I step out there, that's the first thing that he wants to do. He'll never give me a break until I go back inside. Now think about this. What do you think is Jesus's biggest passion? What do you think is Jesus's most ready to do? Well, I think what we see and what Dane Ortlund talks about in this book is that Jesus's heart is to save sinners. His heart really is to image the Father's heart, which is willing and ready to save sinners. And it's really stunning when we unpack more of what Jesus is saying here. And so I want you to look at it first. It says, all that the Father has given to me. Everyone whom the Father gives me, I will never cast out. And notice this, where he says in verse 37, all, not most. Jesus isn't saying like, well, we'll put up with 75%. That's not that bad. We'll take 75%. That's a passing grade. No. He's saying everyone whom we have chosen from eternity past, every single one of them down to the last person, they'll all come. He says all, not most. But then he says this. He says all that the Father has given me. Here's what's amazing about that, is that Jesus isn't trying to like persuade the Father, saying, Father, please save these people. And the Father's like, oh, like, okay, that's fine. You know, Jesus isn't like when I was in high school, when I said like, you know, Dad, I know you said that I had to go to bed by 10, but will you please let me stay up until 11? And he's like, okay, fine, just tonight. No, that's not the case of what's going on. The Father is passionate about saving his elect. And notice that it says also this, all that the Father gives, not, okay, fine, you can have them. I'm not really psyched up about the group that we've chosen, but that's fine. No. He doesn't He doesn't do that. He's giving them to the Son, saying, go and save them. It's awesome because in this first part of verse 37, we see that the Father has a desire to save you. For me, that is like such a much needed reminder, because man, it's really easy to remember that God is powerful, that he's good, that he's sovereign, that he's wise, that he's, he's in control. But it's often really hard to remember and really trust that, like, he really wants me. Kind of the common saying, like, he doesn't just love me, but he actually likes me, even as I'm so messed up. I'll give a shout out to our men's Bible study that we had last night. Guys like Mark Costco, Glenn Ulrich, John Wiggins, John Clemmer. We got a group of about 13 to 15 of us, and we met last night, and we're going through the Gospel of Luke, and we're in Luke 5 last night, and Jesus is approached by a leper, and the leper comes up to Jesus and he says, "Hey, I know you're able to cleanse me, but I'm not really sure if you're willing." And Jesus says this. He says, "I will be clean." And that word, which is really cool, that word in the Greek, "I will," is like, it's a desire word. It is a passion word. And so what we see here is this, that Jesus is imaging the Father's heart. Jesus isn't different from the Father. That'd be bad Christology. No. Jesus is as passionate as the Father is. And that's really important, because that means that God he's so ready to draw near to the worst of the worst. He's so willing to draw near and to save really, really messed up people. All right, but we got to keep going. This is awesome. I love this verse. Now look at the next part of verse 37. He says, "All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out." Notice that Jesus says, "And whoever comes to me." He's not saying this, only the good people who come to me, I'll never cast them out. Or only those people who have it together, I'll never cast them out. Or he's not saying only those who don't struggle with sin as much, I'll never cast them out. But everyone else, like, you might need to go. You're kind of bringing the team down. No. That's not at all. This is the most inclusive gospel call that we can hear. Jesus is saying the worst of the worst, those people who don't have it together, those people who they need a physician, those are the people whom I will never cast out. Think about it this way. I have a Saab 9.3, which is a little bitty sedan, and I've had this car for 10 years. And Saab was owned by GM, and during the 2008 financial crisis, GM basically I think they kind of had to drop Saab, and so now it's hard to find car parts for Saab, and so I'll take my car to many different places, and it's often hard because when I need something fixed, most people can't work on it, and so I have to like really search to try to find someone who can fix this part. Now think about this. Jesus isn't like the car mechanics who only work on specific cars. He is saying anyone that is in existence, like anyone whom I have chosen, whoever you are, come to me. He's not saying like there's a class of people who I want, but like really this bottom class, like you wouldn't really make us look really good. Like you can't be on the team. He's not saying that at all. He's saying whoever comes to me, I'll never cast out. And that brings us to the next part where he says, whoever comes to me. Notice that he says comes to me. He doesn't say comes and gets a little bit of grace. You get a little bit of grace, you get a little bit of grace. It's kind of like, like it's like Oprah, like look under your seat and you get some grace. No. He's saying you got to come to me. You see, actually Roman Catholicism is kind of that doctrine where we say like we need like a little bit of grace, like it's an actual thing apart from Jesus. But grace only comes in the person of Christ. You see, who we need to come to is Jesus himself. Grace is when we are united to Jesus. And so that's what Jesus is saying. He's like, no, you can't have grace outside of me. I don't stand afar and just kind of lob you a little bit of grace like it's a football Hail Mary play. No. You got to come to me and be united to me to have grace. Now, here's why this is awesome. So like we got to ask the question, like, so what? Here's what Jesus is saying. Whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. He's not saying this. Whoever comes to me feeling bad enough about their sin, and as long as you feel bad enough about your sin for a really, really long time, then you're eligible to come to me. No. He's saying whoever, wherever you are, come to me. It's kind of urgent, where Jesus is saying, like, don't wait. Stop trying to do enough. Stop trying to get your life together. Stop trying to have better effort. Come to me now. And that's awesome when we think about it. Because, look, we're never going to have it all the way together. And if we think we have it together, then actually we're being deceived. Because we are always in need of Jesus. Now here we go. We got to look at the next part. Here's where it gets amazing. Here's where Dane Ortland in his book is so good. Jesus says, "Whoever comes to me, I will never cast out." Now here's what's really cool. Here's where the Greek gets really cool. Is that when Jesus says, "I will never cast out," it'd actually be more accurate in English to say, like, "I will never ever cast you out." There's a double negative in the Greek here. He's saying, like, never, ever, ever. Like, it's most certain that I will never, ever cast you out. Isn't that awesome? Now, here's the question. Why would Jesus be so emphatic about this? Why would he be so emphatic? Well, here's one of the reasons. He probably knows that it's often easy for us to doubt his grace for us. Like, let's be honest. When we see our sin, I mean, like, isn't it easy to think, like, well, maybe he'll cast me out this time? Or I just remembered that I did this thing in the past that I had tried to forget for so long, and I don't know if he can really forgive me. Isn't it really easy to do that? Or we can say this. We can say, I thought that I had finally gotten past that particular sin, and now I've backslidden and I'm back in it. Maybe he'll cast me out now. No. This is what Jesus is telling you. He is telling you with the authority of God. He is saying, never, ever. Like, no chance I will ever cast you out. Once you come to me, boom, done. I got you, and I'll never cast you out. I love in this book, Gentle and Lowly, he talks about this verse, and he talks about John Bunyan in one of John Bunyan's books called "Come and Welcome to Jesus Christ." And really, it's a book that's all about John 6:37. And here's what John Bunyan says in that book. He says this: "They that are coming to Jesus Christ are oftentimes heartily afraid that Jesus Christ will not receive them." Look, if we're honest, isn't that true? We get nervous during confession, and we often don't confess all the details of our sin because we're kind of nervous about, like, what he thinks. And isn't that the reason why we often don't kind of confess to other people? Because we're really thinking, like, is Jesus willing to really receive me? And that's what, like, John Bunyan got that. That's a Puritan. He got it. And he's saying, this is the reason why Jesus said this. Jesus understood our fears and doubts. I love this later on in the book. So later in John Bunyan's book, he's saying that what we like to do often is we look at Jesus and we say, like, I know you're a sinner, but I, fill in the blank. We often love to kind of, like, we make these excuses to say, like, well, maybe I'm, like, a different class of sinner, and I'm like, I'm really bad, and like everyone else you say was just kind of bad. John Bunyan just eliminates all those excuses, and this is what he says. He says, you're talking like in the language of someone who's doubting, and he says, but I am a great sinner. Christ says, I will never cast you out. But I am a hard-hearted sinner. Christ says, I will never cast you out. But I am a backsliding sinner. But Christ says, I will never cast you out. Listen, whatever excuse that we try to make, Jesus always responds with this: I will never, ever cast you out. You might say, well, Jesus, I have like this particular sin from my past. I will never cast you out. But Jesus, I'm still struggling with this sin and this doubt and this unbelief. Like even right now, I will never, ever cast you out. Isn't this like, no one is like Jesus. Jesus isn't doing like, kind of like the Heisman stiff arm to you, where it's like, you sin again, which, spoiler alert, you will. And he doesn't do like the Heisman stiff arm. He's like, let me kind of put you in the outer circle of like my group. He never does that. I love this. Here's what Dane Ortland says. This book is awesome. Here's what he says. Fallen, anxious sinners are limitless in their capacity to perceive reasons for Jesus to cast them out. We are factories of fresh resistances to Christ's love. Even when we run out of tangible reasons to be cast out, such as specific sins or failures, we tend to still have a vague sense that, given enough time, Jesus will finally grow tired of us and hold us at arm's length. Bunyan understands us, and he knows we tend to deflect Christ's assurances. You see what Dane Ortland is saying? Like, it's like we're constantly coming up with reasons to doubt Jesus's never ever. But here's what stands: not our feelings, not what we tell ourselves. What stands is God's word. His word will never be broken. Now, what's the big deal? Why does this matter today? Here's why it matters. The very heart that Jesus has is that he, like my dog Murphy, he is most ready to draw near to sinners. He hasn't changed now that he's ascended. We see in Hebrews it says, he talks about Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. He doesn't have a different passion now. Matter of fact, he's interceding for us even now. His heart is the same for you and for me. Here's why that's awesome. There is no one who is more approachable in any season of life than Jesus Christ. There is no one who is more ready to draw near to you when you are at your worst than Jesus Christ. It is like as on a magnet where it's like the North Pole and the South Pole are just like being drawn together. Jesus is so ready to come to those who are opposite of him. He's so ready to save you and to still draw near to you even as you struggle. You see, here's one thing that we can take from this. We know that we're growing as a Christian the faster we run to Jesus. We know we're growing as a Christian not whenever we sin and we say, I need to beat myself up and feel really, 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 really bad about this for a long period of time, and then I'm ready to come to Jesus. No. That would be more immaturity. But rather, we know we're growing as a Christian the faster we run to Jesus and say, Jesus, take me, I have sinned again. And when we trust that he is gracious to us, that's when we know we're growing in our understanding of who he is. Look, I hope this is just something that we see today where there's no one like Jesus. There's no one who is so ready to draw near to us in our filth, in our suffering, in our sin than Jesus is. The world isn't like this. There's no friend on earth that we have who is like this. And I hope this gives you just ample confidence in Jesus, saying that no matter what is going on in your life right now, no matter what fears you have, no matter what sins you're struggling with, no matter what suffering you're going through, Jesus is so ready to draw near to you. He's so desirous to draw near to you. So that's your devotion for today. And keep tuning in to our blog as we're writing more. And we will see y'all next time.